In the previous segment, we were introduced to Sang Zhi, a bright middle school student who struggled with distractions in class. Her teacher reprimanded her for her lack of focus and requested a meeting with her parents. With her brother, Sang Yan, unwilling to assist, Sang Zhi turned to Duan, a friend of her brother, to step in as a substitute. Duan agreed to help, and he played the role convincingly. As time passed and Sang Zhi moved on to high school, she developed feelings for Duan. Her heart sank, however, when she learned he was in a relationship with someone else. During a visit to Duan's hometown, he helped her out but didn't introduce her to his rumored girlfriend. Returning home, Sang Zhi felt a growing distance between them. Starting college in the same city as Duan, Sang Zhi made new friends, including Jiang, who showed interest in her. During a night out, she unexpectedly ran into Duan, leading to a moment of surprise between them. Currently, Duan picks up a pack of cigarettes and questions Sang Zhi about whether she has taken up smoking. Sang Zhi explains that she does not smoke and that the cigarettes belong to her friend. She's borrowing her friend's jacket. Duan, still unconvinced, presses her about her drinking habits. She admits that she drinks occasionally and has had alcohol only a few times. Duan then addresses a more pressing issue: why she hasn't been responding to his messages and calls. He asks how long she's been at the university, and Sang Zhi reveals it's been a month. When Duan asks why she didn't reach out, Sang Zhi lies, saying she's been too busy with her studies and a part-time job. Duan counters her excuse, noting that he managed to keep in touch with her while working part-time and also helped her with her studies and transportation, all while balancing his own graduation and job. Sang Zhi, unsure of how to respond and reluctant to reveal that she's been trying to distance herself because of his girlfriend, heads quickly to her friend Ning Wei to ask when they'll return to the hotel. Ning Wei tells her they'll leave by 11 p.m. but Sang Zhi feels that's too late, as her mother has instructed her not to stay out too long. She decides to leave early and head back to her hostel on her own. As Sang Zhi walks down the corridor toward the exit, she makes negative comments about Duan, unaware that he's sitting nearby. Duan overhears and questions her about the remarks, startling her. He asks where her friends are and why she's heading back alone. When Sang Zhi explains that her friends will be leaving later and she's heading home early, Duan insists on driving her back to the dorm. During the car ride, Duan encourages Sang Zhi to speak up if she has any issues or confusion. However, Sang Zhi chooses to remain silent. Duan then questions whether her reason for attending the university was related to a partner from an online dating app, since this town is also his hometown. Sang Zhi promptly denies this and declines to elaborate further. When they finally arrived at the hostel, Duan got out of his car and handed Sang Zhi a pouch of medication. He urged her to take it before bed, warning her that if she skipped it, she'd wake up with a severe headache and hangover. Sang Zhi didn't respond but took the medication from him. Once she reached her room, she followed his advice and took the medicine before heading to bed to avoid a headache the next morning. The next day, while the four girls chatted about the previous evening's events, Ning Wei suddenly asked if Sang Zhi had received any messages from Jiang. She explained that Jiang had been asking about Sang Zhi constantly after she left. Sang Zhi checked her phone and found a text from Jiang, advising her not to return to the hostel alone in the future and offering to escort her back if she let him know in advance. Uxin and Ning Wei started teasing Sang Zhi, suggesting that Jiang might have a crush on her. This bothered Wang Rulin, who was developing feelings for Jiang. To shift the focus, Sang Zhi gathered the girls and shared a story, presenting it as if it were about a friend. She described how her friend had started liking her older brother's friend, Chum, a video game developer. Uxin, an avid gamer, immediately asked about the game Chum created. Sang Zhi revealed the game's title and showed an image on her phone, explaining that it was a top-selling game and had won Game of the Year. She mentioned she was still hooked on playing it. Uxin was impressed, noting that Duan must be a successful game developer. Ning Wei then asked about the ages of the game's creators, and Sang Zhi said the man was 25 and the woman was 20. The girls were slightly surprised by the age gap but agreed that if there was real affection and mutual respect, the age difference wasn't a big deal. Sang Zhi was still mulling over the conversation when her father called. She moved to a quiet corner to take the call. Her dad asked her to invite Duan out for a thank you dinner as a gesture of gratitude for all his help with her studies and other favors. Sang Zhi agreed enthusiastically and sent Duan a message, inviting him to dinner to express her thanks for dropping her off at the hostel the previous night. Duan, caught up in his busy work schedule, was preoccupied with game development, meetings, and various tasks. Nevertheless, he was thrilled to receive Sang Zhi's text and responded with a smile. He called her back to say he was swamped this week but would be free next week. They arranged a time for the thank you dinner then. At college, Ning Wei told the girls that Jiang's friend from the gathering was now officially in a relationship with her. Jiang then approached Sang Zhi and invited her to a movie next week, mentioning he had accidentally bought an extra ticket. Sang Zhi initially declined, saying she had a dinner with Duan. However, after some persuasion from everyone, she agreed to see if she could adjust her plans to make it to the movie. Later, Duan was at home when the doorbell rang. He opened it to find yet another package from Jiang, the girl who had been relentlessly sending him gifts and making him uncomfortable. He set the package aside with the others from Jiang and sent her a message asking her to stop bothering him. Unhappy with his response, Jiang began calling him repeatedly, but he ignored all her calls. Duan had been so swamped with work that he hadn't had a chance to eat in days. During a meeting, an acquaintance brought him some food, which he ate quickly. After the meeting, he started to feel unwell and developed a high fever. Unfortunately, this was the same evening he was supposed to have dinner with Sang Zhi, so he called her to let her know he wouldn't make it. Sang Zhi immediately noticed the concern in his voice and insisted on coming to pick him up. Despite Duan's repeated attempts to decline, Sang Zhi was determined and arrived at his workplace before he knew it. She helped him up and supported him as they walked. Duan joked about how a small girl like Sang Zhi could manage someone as large as him, but she stayed silent while trying to hail a taxi. Assuming she didn't appreciate his joke, he quickly apologized, explaining that he was just joking. Sang Zhi, focused on booking an Uber and getting a taxi for Duan to go to the hospital, ignored his attempts to talk. As they were trying to find a cab, they accidentally bumped into each other and Duan's lips brushed against Sang Zhi's forehead, giving the impression of a kiss. Both were momentarily stunned but quickly carried on as if nothing had happened. At the hospital, the doctor informed them that Duan needed to stay overnight for observation, and he might need to stay longer. Sang Zhi called her mother to update her on the situation. Her mother expressed deep sympathy for Duan and shared his past with Sang Zhi, revealing that when Duan was 11, his mother had died in a car accident. Since then, Sang Zhi's family had covered his school and living expenses, but Duan had repaid them once he started working. He had always put his work before his own needs. Sang Zhi's mother advised her to stay with Duan at the hospital since he had no one else to care for him. She reminded Sang Zhi of the debt of gratitude they owed him for his help over the years. Feeling a deep sense of compassion, Sang Zhi decided to stay with Duan at the hospital. When she entered Duan's hospital room, he asked why she was still there. She told him she intended to stay the night. Duan tried to convince her to return to her dorm, assuring her that he would be fine on his own. But Sang Zhi, having made up her mind, ignored his protests and settled in to stay with him. Sang Zhi then offers to clean Duan's face since he's unable to stand up and shower. She fetches a damp cloth and brings it to him, but Duan tries to do it himself. Sang Zhi insists on helping and gently wipes his face. As she works, Duan closes his eyes, and Sang Zhi finds herself admiring him up close. When Duan suddenly opens his eyes, it creates an intimate moment between them. Flustered, Sang Zhi hurriedly retreats to the bathroom, wondering why he looked at her so suddenly. Meanwhile, Duan smiles, recalling the accidental kiss he had given her on the forehead earlier. Later, as they prepare to settle down for the night, Sang Zhi lies on the floor and checks her phone. She finds several voice messages from Jiang but quickly dismisses them, as she had to postpone their movie plans due to Duan's emergency. Duan asks Sang Zhi if Jiang is her boyfriend, but she clarifies that he is just a friend. He then inquires if she is popular at school, to which she replies affirmatively and even describes herself as adorable. After that, Duan goes quiet, leaving the conversation hanging. The next day, before heading to her classes, Sang Zhi checks in with Duan to see if he needs anything. He asks for a fresh set of clothes and his laptop. Sang Zhi goes to his place, retrieves the laptop, gathers some clothes, and packs them up. As she is about to close the building door, Jiang tells her to leave it open. Sang Zhi doesn't think much of it and leaves the door ajar. Jiang then arrives, knocking loudly and insisting on speaking with Duan. When Sang Zhi returns with the laptop, she advises Duan not to overexert himself and to get some rest. Duan jokes that Sang Zhi must have matured since she's now scolding him like his mother. In the hospital room, another patient asks if Sang Zhi and Duan are married. Duan, playfully, confirms and tells the men to observe how much Sang Zhi is scolding him. Sang Zhi immediately steps in to clarify that they are just friends, and then looks at Duan, who only grins in response. Eventually, Sang Zhi arrives late to her class. The other girls have already saved her a sandwich for breakfast, which she eats with thanks. After class, Jiang approaches her and asks why she missed the movie. Sang Zhi explains that she stayed at the hospital overnight because a family member was ill. Jiang reassures her that everything is fine and invites her to a movie the following day. Sang Zhi accepts, appreciating his genuine interest in her. Meanwhile, Duan, now back home, finds little notes that Sang Zhi left behind. They include reminders for tasks, medication, rest, and meals. Each note makes Duan smile, knowing that Sang Zhi is the only person who cares for him this much. The next day, Duan is bombarded with calls and texts from Jiang, but he decides to ignore them. Meanwhile, Sang Zhi goes on a movie date with Jiang. They enjoy the film in peaceful silence, and afterward, they explore an an arcade. Sang Zhi, bubbling with excitement, suggests they play some games. Jiang agrees, but his gaze often drifts from the flashing arcade screens to Sang Zhi, who is fully absorbed in the fun. Her joyful laughter captivates him more than the games themselves. When they return to the hostel, they run into Sang Zhi's friends, who are buzzing with plans for a New Year's celebration the next day. They eagerly invite Jiang to join them, which he gladly accepts, assuming Sang Zhi will be there. However, Sang Zhi suddenly decides to skip the event, creating some tension. Jiang, having agreed to go mainly for Sang Zhi's company, now questions whether he still wants to attend. The following day, as Sang Zhi's friends prepare for the party, Wang Rulin catches everyone's eye in her adorable new outfit. Despite their best efforts to convince Sang Zhi to join the celebration, she resolutely stays behind. She watches as her friends, full of excitement, head out. Jiang lingers, hoping Sang Zhi might change her mind, but when the party starts without her, he feels a pang of disappointment. Wang Rulin, who had dressed up to catch Jiang's attention, is pleased when he compliments her look, though her joy is mixed with a tinge of sadness. Later that night, Sang Zhi receives a call from Duan inviting her to dinner the next day. He mentions that they had missed their previous outing due to his illness, and Sang Zhi, recalling how she cared for him in the hospital, happily agrees. They meet at a charming restaurant the following evening, where Duan insists on treating her to express his gratitude. They chat and laugh comfortably as friends. Unexpectedly, Jiang walks in with a friend. Spotting Duan, she becomes furious and demands to know why he's been avoiding her calls and messages. Sang Zhi watches in amazement as Duan calmly tells Jiang he's done with her and asks her to leave. Jiang, enraged, throws water at Duan. Shocked and protective, Sang Zhi retaliates by throwing water back at Jiang, her voice steady and firm. "How dare you?" Jiang, infuriated, questions Sang Zhi's identity. Sang Zhi coolly responds that she is nobody but that Jiang has no right to treat Duan this way. This only angers Jiang more, and she grabs a tray, preparing to strike Sang Zhi. Duan quickly intervenes, knocking the tray away and warning Jiang not to harm Sang Zhi or overstep any further. Jiang continues to press Duan, insisting he can't simply forget her. The restaurant staff finally arrives and forcibly escorts Jiang out. Duan, visibly shaken, loses his usual composure. Sang Zhi helps him out of the restaurant, draping her coat over him and gently wiping his face with her handkerchief. Her hands move with a gentle urgency as she wraps a muffler around his neck, her concern evident. Duan watches her with gratitude and something deeper in his eyes. Finally, Sang Zhi inquired about Jiang. Duan responded, "She means nothing to me. She was merely a connection to my father." Recalling the earlier incident when Jiang had visited Duan's home, Sang Zhi reassured him that she wasn't hurt. She advised him not to tolerate any bullying from Jiang and to report her if needed. Duan nodded, his gaze lingering on Sang Zhi, appreciating her kindness and strength. Noticing a wound on Duan's face, Sang Zhi carefully applied some medication. His sense of reassurance and comfort grew in her presence, and he realized, with surprise, that he was falling in love with her. The realization startled him, as he admired the steadfast support she provided. As they stepped outside to enjoy the picturesque snowfall, Sang Zhi silently hoped that Duan would fall in love with her, while Duan wished for her happiness above all else. Meanwhile, Sang Zhi's friends were also making their wishes. Ning Wei asked Wang Rulin about hers, but Wang Rulin kept it a secret, her gaze drifting to Jiang as she silently wished for his affection. When Ning Wei inquired about Jiang's wish, he said he only wished for the happiness of the girl he liked, with his thoughts turning to Sang Zhi. Later, as Duan returned home, he felt a bit lighter after spending the evening with Sang Zhi. However, his mood soured when he found Jiang waiting at his door. She apologized for her earlier behavior, explaining it was a result of anger, and questioned why he needed to be involved with another girl. Duan, maintaining his composure, told her he owed her nothing and asked her to leave. Jiang then revealed that Duan's father had been responsible for her father's death and that his mother had promised to care for her family forever. The painful memories resurfaced, and Duan could no longer stand there. He walked away, lost in thought as he reflected on the past. The tragedy caused by his father's actions had led his mother to promise to look after Jiang's family. Duan had tried to make amends at school, but Jiang's anger and the cruel taunts of "murderer's son" had deeply wounded him. Now, looking at his mother's photo, Duan apologized for failing to keep her promise. But when he saw Sang Zhi's photo, he smiled, remembering the genuine happiness she had brought into his life. As fireworks lit up the New Year's sky, Duan took a photo and sent it to Sang Zhi, who responded that she was watching the same display. Their shared experience bridged the distance between them. That night, a friend called Duan to announce his upcoming marriage and inquired about Duan's love life. Upon hearing the word love, Duan immediately thought of Sang Zhi but quickly brushed it off. The next day, Jiang met Sang Zhi and her friends at a restaurant. He agreed to join them for lunch, but Sang Zhi said she had to leave early to visit Duan. She texted him to let him know she was coming by his workplace. The news lifted Duan's spirits. However, upon arriving, Duan learned from a friend that Jiang was causing a commotion downstairs, so he exited through another door to meet Sang Zhi. He asked her not to visit frequently, which hurt Sang Zhi since she was unaware that Duan was trying to protect her from Jiang. Sang Zhi handed Duan a camera, suggesting he use it to record any trouble Jiang might cause. She then hurried away, feeling hurt and unaware unaware of Duan's true intention to shield her from further distress. Since that incident, Sang Zhi had been feeling down, and her responses to Duan's messages became increasingly indifferent. After finally completing her exams, Sang Zhi and her friends decided to celebrate with a karaoke night. They chatted about their holiday plans while Sang Zhi drank heavily, missing Duan. Jiang sang a love song for Sang Zhi, but by then, she had already left the room in a drunken state. She called Duan, who scolded her for being out so late and questioned her about who she was with. Sang Zhi mentioned she was with her friends, and Duan immediately offered to pick her up. Sang Zhi grabbed her bag, said her goodbyes, and left. Jiang followed Sang Zhi outside, wanting to tell her about the song he had sung. Before he could explain further, Sang Zhi, too intoxicated to stand, sat down. Jiang tried to help her up, but Duan arrived just in time. Seeing Sang Zhi with someone else made Duan feel jealous. He stepped in, identified himself as Sang Zhi's family, and took her away. Sang Zhi told Duan to leave her alone, but he replied that he knew she was upset and shouldn't be out so late with another guy. Sang Zhi insisted she was an adult and could do what she wanted. Just then, she felt nauseous and vomited on Duan's jacket. Duan comforted her and took her to a nearby park for some fresh air. Still drunk, Sang Zhi started crying, expressing feelings of being ugly and overweight. Although Duan found her complaints a bit amusing, he reassured her. Sang Zhi inadvertently confessed her feelings for someone who didn't reciprocate. When Duan asked who it was, she didn't name him but described him as kind to everyone but not treating her differently. Sang Zhi then passed out. Duan, feeling sad, vowed to always make her feel special, not realizing she was referring to him. He carried her to his car, fulfilling his promise. As he drove, he thought about how he used to seem much older when she was younger, but now they were both adults. The next day, Sang Zhi's friends asked about the handsome guy who dropped her off at the hostel. Sang Zhi explained he was the person she had mentioned before. Uxin asked if he was her crush, and Sang Zhi accidentally confirmed it, revealing her feelings for her brother's best friend. Sang Zhi decided to go home for the holiday vacation, and Duan insisted on driving her to the airport. While Duan was loading her luggage into the car, Jiang arrived, hoping to talk to Sang Zhi. Duan felt a twinge of jealousy but stayed quietly in the car. Jiang told Sang Zhi that the song he had sung was for her and that he had liked her from the first time they met. Sang Zhi was surprised, realizing it only then. Remembering Duan's advice not to reject anyone directly, Sang Zhi responded, "Thank you for the song and for liking me so much, but I like someone else." Jiang's heart was broken, but he agreed to remain friends. Sang Zhi confirmed, "Yes, absolutely." After Jiang handed Sang Zhi the food he had brought, he took his leave. Sang Zhi returned to the car, and she and Duan set off for the airport. During the drive, Duan bombarded Sang Zhi with questions about Jiang, asking who he was and whether they were close since she had been with him the previous night. Duan had previously advised her against going out alone with guys. Sang Zhi explained that she hadn't been alone, she was with her friends, and Jiang was just a friend of Ning Wei's boyfriend. She assured Duan that Jiang was a genuinely good person. Duan then inquired if Jiang was the same person Sang Zhi had mentioned as her secret crush the previous night. Sang Zhi was taken aback, realizing she had revealed a lot about her crush. She quickly clarified that Jiang wasn't her secret crush and tried to ask Duan what she had said the night before, but he didn't respond, which frustrated her. Duan then asked what kind of guy Sang Zhi was interested in, but she didn't answer. Instead, she questioned Duan about why he was single and didn't have a girlfriend. Duan expressed his desire for a girlfriend and asked Sang Zhi to help him find one. Sang Zhi pointed out that all her friends were older than her, even those from other classes. Duan reassured her that age didn't matter and that any of her older friends would be fine. This made Sang Zhi realize that Duan could date someone older, which implied he might not be interested in younger girls. Duan specified that he was looking for someone over 20, which surprised Sang Zhi because it meant he could date her, as she was also over 20. Duan seemed pleased with this hint, as it indirectly suggested he might be interested in her. After one flight, Sang Zhi arrived home and was warmly welcomed by her family, with Sang Yan picking her up from the airport. She had brought numerous gifts for everyone, though Sang Yan initially didn't like the glasses she got him. Eventually, he accepted them, touched by the thoughtfulness behind her gift. They all enjoyed their time together, especially Sang Yan, who fondly reminisced about the times he used to tease his sister. Meanwhile, Duan had lunch with Bong, who was about to get married. Bong urged Duan to propose to the girl he liked before someone else did. Duan replied that he would be content even if his crush ended up with someone better. Bong's curiosity led him to ask if the girl Duan liked had someone else in mind or if she had shared details about her crush. Duan described her as having a secret crush who treated everyone the same, which made Bong wonder if the girl might be talking about Duan himself. Duan dismissed the idea but started to consider if he might be Sang Zhi's secret crush. A few days later, at Bong's wedding, everyone was in high spirits. Duan joined in the festivities, teasing Sang Yan, who then asked Sang Zhi to switch seats. At that moment, Duan texted Sang Zhi, saying he was glad to see her again after a long time and asking how she was. Duan subtly urged Sang Zhi to read the message by gesturing towards her phone. Although she read it, she didn't reply right away. She wanted to eat strawberries but found that someone else had taken them, so she sat quietly. Duan, Duan, noticing her silence, started bombarding her with questions about her crush, his identity, name, and field of study. Sang Zhi, worried that Duan might have figured out she had a crush on him, fumbled with her responses. She then asked Sang Yan if they could go home, but he refused, so she decided to leave alone. Duan followed her, offering to drive her home in her brother's car. Initially reluctant, Sang Zhi eventually agreed. On the way, they stopped to buy strawberries, which Duan gave to Sang Zhi. She was thrilled and began eating them. Duan then asked her to extend her hand and took a bite of the strawberry she was holding. Sang Zhi was stunned by this gesture, while Duan appeared genuinely happy. When they arrived home, Duan asked Sang Zhi if she was heading back to her hostel the next day and suggested they travel together since he was also leaving. Sang Zhi agreed. Before she went inside, Duan gifted her a beautiful bracelet. She thanked him and went into the house. Later, Sang Zhi looked up the significance of a boy giving a bracelet and found that it typically indicates romantic interest. This discovery made her very happy, and she wondered if Duan truly liked her. The following morning, Duan picked Sang Zhi up for the airport, looking a bit sleep-deprived. Sang Zhi offered him her breakfast, but he declined it and gave it to her instead since she hadn't eaten either. They shared the meal, and Duan seemed quite pleased. At the airport, an old acquaintance saw them and asked if Sang Zhi was Duan's girlfriend, then quickly corrected himself, saying that Duan's girlfriend was Jiang. Duan became annoyed and demanded to know who spread that false information. The friend apologized and left. Sang Zhi, puzzled, asked Duan about Jiang. Duan explained that Jiang was the girl who had thrown water on him and questioned if Sang Zhi thought someone like her could be his girlfriend. Sang Zhi then recalled a different girl who had come to the airport and mistakenly thought she was Duan's girlfriend, which made Duan laugh because Sang Zhi had confused his company director for his romantic partner. Afterward, Sang Zhi returned to her hostel and, after settling in, ran out to say goodbye to Duan, who was already waiting for her. Ning Wei saw this and, once Sang Zhi was inside, asked her if she really had feelings for Duan and why she hadn't confessed. Sang Zhi hesitated, thinking about how Duan had always treated her like a sister and wondering how to reveal her feelings. Ning Wei pointed out that while Duan might have treated her like a sister before, his recent behavior suggested he was interested in her. Meanwhile, Duan was reflecting on Sang Zhi's nervous reaction when he asked about her secret crush. He realized it was unlikely she had recently met this crush and concluded that he might be her first love, which explained why she had come to his hometown alone. Excited by this realization, Duan rushed to share the news with Bong. Bong, perceptive about others' emotions, encouraged Duan, saying he had suspected for a while that Sang Zhi might have feelings for him too. This confirmation filled Duan with joy. The next day, while Sang Zhi was having lunch with her friends, Duan called. Ning Wei insisted that Sang Zhi answer the call in front of everyone. Duan invited her to dinner the following evening, but Sang Zhi suggested meeting the day after. Her friends were thrilled, knowing she was going on a date with her longtime crush. However, Wang Ruolin, the practical one, questioned what this meant for Jiang. Sang Zhi assured them that Jiang was just a friend and she had already cleared things up with him. Wang Ruolin was satisfied with this and expressed her happiness for Sang Zhi. On the day of the date, Sang Zhi's friends helped her get ready. When she descended the stairs to meet Duan, he was mesmerized by how beautiful she looked. Sang Zhi's heart soared at his reaction, but her excitement waned when Duan mentioned they would be meeting someone. She feared he might want to introduce her to another girlfriend, as he had previously suggested. At the restaurant, they encountered the girl from the airport. Duan had invited her to clear up the misunderstanding. While Duan stepped away, the woman explained that she was Duan's company director, not his girlfriend. She revealed that she had been at the airport with Duan because he was unwell, and she had to leave urgently due to an emergency with her husband. She assured Sang Zhi that Duan liked her and couldn't bear to see her upset, unlike when they were children. Sang Zhi's mind raced as she realized she had misunderstood the situation at the airport. Duan soon returned with his co-workers, who were surprised to learn that Sang Zhi was introduced as his friend rather than his sister. Sang Zhi sat there, overwhelmed by everything that had happened. Noticing her discomfort, Duan asked if she wanted to leave, and they stepped outside together. Outside, Duan suggested they find another restaurant. Sang Zhi, still reeling from the shock of his touch, struggled to find her words. Duan gently released her hand and reassured her that he had asked the director to clarify everything so she wouldn't be confused. Sang Zhi, still processing his reassurance, stared at him with a whirlwind of emotions in her eyes. To help distract her, Duan proposed they watch a movie, and Sang Zhi agreed. At the theater, Sang Zhi texted her friends to let them know she would be home late, and they responded with excitement. Curious, Duan asked who she was messaging, and she told him it was her roommate. Afterward, Duan brought her a cup of coffee. Sang Zhi reminded him that she was allergic to milk, causing Duan to panic as he tried to retrieve the coffee, but Sang Zhi had already taken a sip. When she began showing signs of an allergic reaction, Duan suggested they see a doctor immediately. Later, after applying some medicine to her face, Sang Zhi felt embarrassed but touched by Duan's concern. He looked at her intently and told her that despite the reaction, she still looked cute. Sang Zhi, self-conscious about her face, kept touching it, but Duan gently held her hand and guided her along. She half-jokingly compared herself to a dog, which made him laugh. Duan then suggested they celebrate her upcoming birthday together, and Sang Zhi agreed, her smile returning. When Sang Zhi finally got got back to her friends, they eagerly bombarded her with questions. She excitedly shared how Duan had gone out of his way to make the day special. The next day, her birthday, Sang Zhi prepared to meet Duan, who was waiting outside her hostel. Jiang intercepted her first, wishing her a happy birthday and giving her a gift. Duan, initially feeling jealous because he wanted to be the first to wish her, greeted Jiang with a forced smile. Sang Zhi took Jiang's gift and then went to Duan, who promptly took the gift from her, saying he would hold on to it. As they walked, Duan couldn't resist asking about her secret crush again. He inquired if he was handsome and tall. Sang Zhi confirmed, and Duan leaned in closer, suggesting that he might be the one, given how much her description matched him. Sang Zhi was taken aback, wondering how he could have guessed her feelings, but quickly denied it, insisting she would have told him if it were true. Duan laughed, teasing her to reconsider, and suggesting that maybe she was too nervous to admit the truth. With newfound confidence, Sang Zhi firmly denied that Duan was her crush, and they continued their walk. During the bus ride, Duan asked her to hold his hand for support, as it was shaking more than he expected. Sang Zhi hesitated but eventually took his hand, feeling both excited and nervous. Duan insisted she hold his hand properly to keep her safe. At the movie theater, Duan offered his hand again, but Sang Zhi, still dealing with her emotions, declined, saying it wasn't appropriate. Duan agreed, noting that she wasn't his girlfriend yet, which left Sang Zhi more astonished than ever. Outside the cinema, Sang Zhi asked where they were going next. Duan revealed they were heading to his place because her birthday present was there. When they arrived at his home, Sang Zhi was amazed to see the terrace beautifully decorated with cakes, which filled her heart with joy. After blowing out the candles and cutting the cake, Duan gave her a present, telling her to open it back at her hostel. Sang Zhi's heart overflowed with emotion as she saw how thoughtful Duan had been towards her. As they enjoyed the cake, Duan casually inquired about the type of guy Sang Zhi was interested in, predicting that she would start dating someone sooner or later. Sang Zhi described her ideal partner as gentle, kind, handsome, sweet, and tall. With a playful glint in his eye, Duan gauged the height she described and boldly asked if she would consider dating him since he fit all the criteria. Startled, Sang Zhi took a closer look at Duan and reminded him that he had always treated her like a little sister and pointed out their age difference. Duan, now serious, told her that things had changed. He emphasized that she had never really treated him as a brother and that he knew she liked him. He suggested they clear everything up that day. Sang Zhi stood up, shocked, her mind racing with thoughts. Sensing her turmoil, Duan urged her to say something, explaining that he was anxious and felt like he couldn't breathe. Deep down, Sang Zhi admitted she felt breathless too, overwhelmed by his sudden confession. Seeing her silence, Duan's worried expression asked if this meant she didn't like him. Nervously, Sang Zhi replied that it wasn't about not liking him, she was just confused about her feelings. She hinted that if he asked her out a few more times, she might be able to sort out her emotions. Duan picked up on her hint, confirming that she never actually said no to him. Duan leaned in and said, "If you're not rejecting me, it means you definitely have feelings for me in your heart. You're just a little shy right now, right?" Blushing, Sang Zhi began eating to hide behind her plate. "That's not it at all. You just asked if I could date you. Not exactly a love confession," she retorted. Duan realized she was right and briefly considered confessing his love right there, but Sang Zhi quickly shifted the conversation, enthusiastically praising the cake instead. Catching on, Duan joined the lighter conversation. "If you love this cake so much, I can make it for you every day," he offered warmly. Sang Zhi laughed, her cheeks still glowing with happiness. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on any new content. Hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when the next part drops. Stay tuned, and see you in the next one.